rescheduled City Council meeting for May 28th, 2024. If you could please stand and join Mr. Bob Cox to lead us in a moment of prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Sharpshire? Here. Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Lovett?
Here.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mrs. Knight?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Mr. Tankersley is absent with notice.
Thank you. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes of the April 30th meeting, which was a corrected set of minutes? Seeing none, minutes will stand as approved, as written and distributed. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes of the May 14th, 2024 regular council meeting? Seeing none, those minutes will also stand as approved and written and distributed. We're going to change up the agenda a little bit here. I'm going to go into rule suspension for the first and only reading of immediate effectivity for ordinance 2024-38E. Is there a motion for late delivery for rule suspension for ordinance 2024-38E? Mr. Levitt, thank you for the first. Ms. Knight, thank you for the second. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes. Yes. Those opposed, no. Okay, that stands. We will move to new business for ordinance 2024-38E. Ms. Buhait?
First and only reading of emergency ordinance 2024-38E, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into a job creation incentive grant for Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Is there a motion for ordinance 2024-38E? So moved by Mr. Cox, second by Ms. Sharpshire. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
David's here if primarily for the people in the audience. This is a huge item for the city, and would like David to talk for a few minutes about what we're doing tonight.
All right, get you up here for the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, members of council and Mr. Mayor. It's an honor to be here tonight. As previously mentioned, Children's Hospital is making a significant financial contribution and overall contribution to our community. And as such, we wanted to ask council's approval for a 45% job creation incentive grant for a period of 6 years in return for a commitment from the hospital to maintain operations. And their research here, of which Maura Berry, the Vice President of Real Estate, would like to discuss with you further, so inclined.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I brought notes in case there are questions because it's a complicated project, but I will try to make it brief since I think I'm standing between you and a party. So, so my name is Maura Berry. I am pleased to be here on behalf of Cincinnati Children's Hospital. In January of this year, we acquired a property at 10995 Canal Road in Sharonville, and we, with the intention of opening a, our board had approved it for a centralized warehouse and distribution facility that would serve our entire greater Cincinnati-based network. Right after closing, our Cancer and Blood Diseases Institute and our new organization, our new center called the Applied Gene and Cell Therapy Center, approached the board with a proposal that they very enthusiastically and unanimously approved. It is a cellular manipulation and vector production facility. They intend to use 45% of the Canal Road facility to improve the building to really the goal is to create integrated gene and cell therapy research production, and to achieve groundbreaking research and to move discoveries that are happening on our Avondale-based campus, move them forward faster by pooling parts of our research that are in disparate locations within that building into one facility where we can do research and manufacturing. Our goal is to create new treatment and cures for pediatric diseases there. We will be teaming up with industry partners, but the most important thing is getting new discoveries to the bedside for our own patients. We believe it'll have a broader impact on the region and actually, you know, the country in pediatric research, but our number one goal is getting the kids under our care, the treatment as fast as possible. It'll focus on a lot of diseases and a lot of our various clinical teams and research teams, but specifically in the beginning, it'll be focused on cancer, blood diseases such as, cancer, blood diseases such as sickle cell anemia, and genetic disorders. We have some employees that are already working on this work, as I mentioned. I won't go through the current numbers, but when we are finished with the proposed improvements within the facility, which have not begun yet, we will be starting with about 88.6 FTEs. Those are full-time equivalents, so it'll be more employees than that, but taking them down to how many people are working there, at least 40 hours a week, at a payroll of $6.4 million in that year. So we're requesting that our grant would start in calendar year 2026, which will be the first full year of use. And by then, we expect to have 95 FTEs and $7 million in payroll. Over the 6-year proposed cycle of the grant, we believe we will be up to 108 FTEs at $9.1 million in payroll in the building. We are very excited, and if you approve this, then we will be starting construction of the CTC section of the building later next month. Anybody have any questions for me? After that drum roll?
I do not. It's exciting news. So happy to have you in our community and look forward to working with Children's Hospital as you move forward.
Great. We are very excited to be in Sharonville.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Comments? All right, seeing none. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I will try this one more time. Correct? New business? No, I can do roll call.
Roll call?
We will hold roll call.
Okay. Mrs. Sharpshire?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you. It's been approved.
it's been approved. There it went.
Thank you. All right. We're on to reports and communications. Mayor Hardman.
Mr. Coulter, if you would join me up front here, I would appreciate it. We've got lots of wonderful presentations tonight, so bear with us while we get through these celebrations of some great folks in our community. And if I could call up first Mr. Paul Cattleman. Come on down. So Paul Cattleman, yeah, there you go. You can applaud him. So 50 years of service to the city of Sharonville is quite an accomplishment, and that is what Paul has so ably done. He is retiring from that service here in the next few weeks. And so it is appropriate to celebrate him and the work that he has done for our community over that 50 years. So I have a little proclamation for him here, and it says, Whereas Paul Cattleman is a graduate of Princeton High School and resident of Sharonville. Woo! Whereas Paul is the loving husband of Janie Cattleman for 60 years, father to David and Carrie, and grandfather to Audrey, Kristen, Austin, and Sadie, and great-grandfather to Kaylee and Lila. And whereas Paul was appointed to council July 1st, 1971, became president of council in 1984, and later served as mayor from 1991 through 1996. Whereas Paul has created countless relationships with Sharonville employees and community members alike, serving on a multitude of civic, recreation, and other community organizations. And whereas Tall Paul, I don't know where he got that nickname from, that doesn't relate. is an avid collector of records, hockey, and City of Sharonville memorabilia. And whereas Paul couldn't stay away from public service and picked back up serving the City of Sharonville as the president of our Civil Service Commission starting in January of 2000 until present day in 2024, overseeing hundreds of civil service examinations and onboarding countless new hires. It is my pleasure to congratulate you, Paul, on 50 years of a career of true dedication and service to the City of Sharonville. It has been an honor to walk in your footsteps. My feet quite as big, but you have done a fantastic job for our community, both in your elected time and your appointed time. You have truly made a difference, and so this is just a little bit of what I can do for you, and declare today, May 28, 2024, as Paul Cattleman Day in the City of Sharonville. One of those people that Paul had the pleasure of serving with, where's Tom Keating? He has a little something that he kind of has this thing that he does to people, and we'll give you. You're going to talk here in a second. We're going to let Tom talk first.
I knew Tom Keating when he was a Democrat.
That shows what a great memory Paul has. I did want to mention one thing about the first time I met Paul, which was when he was in his 20s and I was in my 20s, and I had agreed to run for council. And so there was a public meeting down at the Gower Park in this, the Lovett building. And it was a community meeting for people who had the concerns about the flooding behind Thornview. And, you know, the Mother Nature was carving canyons behind Thornview. Have any of you heard of that issue? Yeah. So anyway, I went to the meeting because I was going to run for council and I wanted to meet some of the elected officials. So I went to the meeting and the citizens were all very well mannered and kind, except one. There was a lady who kept saying, "You should have stopped that water from running down there. It's all your fault. Why don't you fix it?" You know. So I thought, man, this is. But Paul handled it as smoothly and as calmly as could be because he was running the meeting. So when the meeting was over, I went outside and stood out there so I could introduce myself to Paul, and I did, and he was kind and gracious and understood that I was running for council. And then that lady walked out, and she said, "They ought to throw all those reprobates out of office." So I did the logical thing. I went home and got out my dictionary and looked up what reprobates means. But as you can tell, Paul never got thrown out of office, ever. And no one ever accused him of being a reprobate. And everybody thought he was the kindest, most professional mayor you could ever imagine. And that's what it was like when you were a law director. He ran the meetings smoothly, efficiently, and when there was a legal question, he never minded asking for legal advice and taking it too, which is good. So in honor of Paul's long time service to the city, I want to carry out the tradition that I started a while back and give him a bottle of wine that has quite a bit of significance for someone who has served so long. So I'm going to present Paul with a bottle of Longevity Cabernet Sauvignon.
I have never met a microphone I didn't like. I want you to welcome with me my family that's here tonight. Granddaughter, Adriana Cattleman. Great-granddaughter, Lila Artis. Kaylee Artis. My son David is here tonight. Special trip up from Florida just to be with us right over here. If you haven't met him, you did. Cousin Peggy King came in from out yonder where she lives up in Wilmington to visit with us tonight too. Did I get him on? Oh. That redhead I sleep with, Janie Cattleman, back over here. I'm just honored and privileged to be in this 50-year club. I'm the 4th member. Back in the late 40s, Frank Gorman and several members of the VFW purchased a used hearse from a funeral company, converted what they could into an ambulance, and the VFW provided ambulance service to this very small, at that time, village of Sharonville. And so the city brought him on payroll for just a few bucks a month to manage and man and give that service. And that started a long career, all with the fire department. And Frank come up through the ranks. Him and his wife Ruthie was just so well known in this town at that time. And I know Vicky's shaking her head. Yeah, she's known him a long time too. And the other one then would be Dale Dormant, who was fire chief, and Rex Basor, whose building namesake is on the front of the building. And the story goes that Rex and Dale both joined the volunteer fire department when they were seniors at Sharonville High School. And when the alarm would go off, it's only a block away, if it was summertime, they'd jump out the window and get in their cars, and off to the fire they would go. And they both progressed. Rex went up through the police department and became safety service director. At the end of his career, then he was my assistant when I was mayor, assistant to the mayor. Dale, up through the ranks, went the conversion from part-time to full-time fire department and became fire chief. And so that's some tall company I'm in with, and I'm very honored to be there. The changes I've seen in 50 years, y'all can't imagine. When Sharonville was only this downtown area and a few houses up on the hill, and that's about it. So I've been through 4 annexations, which has certainly widened that horizon. When I say I've been through, that means in those 50 years I either participated or had something to do with it anyhow. But the residential, the business, and I see we've got another nice business coming in tonight. Congratulations to your community development people. Infrastructure, city services, they've all changed a lot. When I first came on council, Sharonville had their own garbage pickup. Ricky Ham is here tonight. He walked behind that garbage truck for a few years, didn't you, Rick? Huh? And it got so big it made more sense to contract that out. I've had some absolutely fantastic 100 or so co-workers I've had in this last 50 years. I'm not going to start naming too many of them, but I got 2 I want to especially recognize. City hired a young cop, and I like to ride with the policeman from time to time, and they didn't want the councilman riding with him, so the chief assigned me to ride with this young cop. And came up through the ranks, went to Glendale as a cop for a while, came back here, and he was our city manager, safety service director, Al Ledbetter, and Alan Kay are here tonight, one of my favorite people. The other name I'm going to mention is Debbie O'Toole. Debbie was 2 or 3 different departments here in the city, and when I became mayor, then she was helping me with my paperwork. I was not a good mayor because I had to work downtown. I was assistant county administrator, and had to come out here and be mayor all on the same day, and that was a long day, and she made things happen. Debbie O'Toole, she's here tonight. Debbie, thank you. The civil service team that we have right now, John Carlberg has been commissioner for 15 years. Commissioner Wendy Lindsay is here. She's been on 5 years. But without the full-time people in this building who help us, Gina Good is a payroll director, and she is the appointed clerk of the commission. And Rachel Combs, God love her, she's there every meeting and does very well as the second HR director of this city. And ladies, all 3 of you are here, and John's back there. You made it easy, guys. We have a great team. Thank you for all that. A couple of things I was involved in that I want to very proud of all 3 of them. When I first came on council, I was assigned to have a city flag designed. Well, I found out later that 3 council members said, I don't want to do that, and here, dump it on the rookie. So the rookie took the ball. I went over to Princeton, got the art department busy, got some other people busy, and now we have the city flag that you all see. Carol Oney, who lived up on Willfleet, was the young lady from Princeton that won a whole $25 savings bond. And so we've had that city flag. It's in the shape of the Ohio flag as a compliment, and I got a big one hanging on the door to my cave in the basement. It's just always glad to see it. Second thing I enjoyed working on, the 12-mile house. I forget how that became my project, but it was another one that nobody else wanted to fool with, and everybody was ready to tear it down. I said, not going to happen. So we were going back and forth and back and forth. How do we handle the 12-mile house? The problem was there was no parking, and we had to stay within parking regulations somehow. I think you probably gave that opinion, didn't you, Tom? Yes. I thought so. Not too far into this process, next door to the 12-mile house was the Dormant Brothers garage. And one day in the afternoon, it caught fire and it burned all the way down to the ground. Guess who got blamed for burning it down? Because now we have parking space. So, and I had a lot of help on that. Main thing is this committee. I had a lot of people work with me on, but I was so proud that the convention center was, well, we had some planning before I became mayor, but mainly taken from a white piece of paper, built, staffed, opened, and expanded now twice, never in the black, always operated in the red, and I am very proud that my name's on top of the plaque of the Sharonville Convention Center. I could write a book. I could write a book on things that I said right here in this seat as mayor's court. Back in those days, the mayor actually ran court, not a magistrate, and I could write a book on the things that people told me brought them here before me. And also, as mayor, we had the ability to perform weddings, and I did somewhere close to 500, I guess, in 7 years. And I could tell some real stories about that. Like the 8 o'clock the Sunday morning, I got a call from a Saturday night wedding. It was the groom. He says, "Can you destroy those papers?" I said, I'm thinking to myself, that must have been the worst wedding night surprise ever, you know. I have no idea what that was all about. I had another...
Go back to the convention center when you were on the thing there that knocked the wall out. Remember when you climbed up on that? Yeah, go ahead.
Instead of a groundbreaking, we had a wall tumbling down. We had an old restaurant there, and I got to take the first bite out of it with this big shovel. So that was the ceremony for that. Thank you. I split my pants from one end to the other. Nobody thought enough to give me a step thing to get up on this, so I had to swing up on it. And
then you just sat there because you didn't know what to do.
And everybody, almost everybody was behind me, but anyhow. My favorite wedding, though, and I was so surprised when the bride and groom walked in this evening. 35 years ago, this week, they tell me, is had the Snyder family lived next door to me, and one of the daughters wanted me to do the ceremony and all all this kind of stuff. The problem was back in those days, my authority was only in Hamilton County, and they were having their reception and everything in Ross County. So I told her, and she was upset when I said I couldn't do it. And she called me up. She says, "Does it matter where in Hamilton County you do this?" They were, just a few miles south of Ross. No, she says, "Well, we're going to pick you up in our we're going to have the ceremony in front of all these people, and you're going to get in this limousine with the two of us and a driver. We're going to go down Route 127, do the ceremony as we're rolling along, and come back." Thank you so much. That's I enjoyed it.
Wait a minute. Hold on. But before she was allowed to get in the limo at her house first, her dad took her back into the house, into the bathroom, because he wanted to make sure she knew how to put the toilet paper on the toilet roll right. Because she had never done it right before. Yes, Ray did, because Mary Ellen told me so.
Gee. One quick story on court. People who have a very clean record can mail in their fine. So some clown mailed in a check made payable to the Sharonville Kangaroo Court. So the court clerk called me and said, "What should I do?" I said, "Send a letter under your signature, send his check back, and say the mayor requires you to be in court such and such a date and time." So he showed up. He was in a three-piece and all like this, and I so called his name. He came forward, and I asked, Kenny Kapler was the police officer that was here. I asked Ken to step in the room. And I said, and the clerk was at that end. I says, "Team," I said, "this gentleman thinks that this is a kangaroo court. He wrote a check payable to kangaroo court. What should I do?" And they said, one of these. I said, "Sir, you already have an opinion of this court, and I'm not going to do anything to change it. I'm going to transfer your case downtown to Hamilton County Municipal Court, where you're going to have to miss a day's work and go down there and stand before a judge who I probably contributed to his campaign." He just, out the door he went, My hundreds of coworkers, I've had over the years, I remember them all very well. I want to thank Virgil Lovett and Kevin for carrying on after I retired from mayor. Virgil for 15 years. You got 7 in? How many? Phew. The city is in much better hands and in much better shape than it was when I left there. No doubt about it. But we all did what we think's right? There you go. I want to give a special shout to Virgil Lovett II, who followed me as mayor, and his wife Tracy. Virgil and I, for a long time, didn't get along very well, but after I retired and we got talking, and he appointed me then. I actually had 53 years, because between the time I retired as mayor and became on Civil Service Commission, 3 years passed, and he begged me to come on the Civil Service Commission, and I'm just glad he did. And Tracy, thank you for sharing him with this city for all the time that he has spent for this city. I know. I'm just overwhelmed by the turnout that's here tonight. Those of you who I go to church with up at Freedom Church up on the hill, I'm going to be at the door for an offering. I got one more meeting. I sat down today and tried to figure out how many meetings I did as city councilman for 12 years, president of council, which, by the way, best job in the whole house. Congratulations. I enjoyed that more than anything. And as mayor, I figure I'm pushing 2,500 meetings in those 50 years. I got one more. We have a Civil Service Commission meeting the second Tuesday. At that time, the commission will elect a new chairman, and I'm very pleased that my friend and former neighbor, John Carlberg, is going to be new chairman of the Civil Service Commission. John, thank you very much for all your work. One more thing, I'll shut up. What? Hmm. 2024 is a milestone year for I did miss one thing. We are a Princeton proud family. I graduated in '62. Janie in 64. My son David is here. He's a Princeton grad. My daughter Carrie is a Princeton grad. My granddaughter is here. Audrey is a Princeton grad. And I have a child in the third grade, going to third grade at Stewart, one going into the 8th grade at the middle school. We have a 4th generation at Princeton High School. We couldn't be prouder of that fact. Milestone year, 50 years with the city of Sharonville. That's only a part of what's going on this year for us. In November on the 19th, I'm going to have a milestone birthday. I don't want to tell you how many, but my age will not start with a 7 anymore. On July the 11th will be 50 years since I moved into Sharonville. I lived right straight across the street on Fortney Lane where there are 4 apartment buildings, 2nd floor walk up, and we moved in there 50 years ago, 60 years ago. Also on that same day, it will be my 60th wedding anniversary with this wonderful person, and I couldn't have done any of that without that support and that care. I know I've been way too long. You got it.
Thank you, Paul. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Hey, don't go anywhere. Grab a seat, because after we do a couple more presentations, we're going to take a little break so you can get pictures with Paul and everyone can say their congratulations, and there's cake and cupcakes and all kinds of good things. But we want to do a couple other presentations so they can enjoy the party with us. So as Paul shared his Princeton pride, I also have the same thing. And it is always a pleasure this time of year to recognize some of the students from Princeton who have graduated and have graduated in the top 20 of their class. I am excited to say that we have 11, right? 11 of the top 20 members of Princeton's graduating class are residents of Sharonville. And some of them, hopefully most of them, are with us to be recognized this evening. And so let me call on a few of them. And their pictures and wonderful information about them is going to be in the Hometown Guide when it comes out here in the next couple of weeks. So you'll get to see their happy faces and great things about them. Some of them have some very strong connections to people that are up here or members of our staff, which is always nice to see. So I don't think these are in any particular order. So Jim Lee Abrosio Perez. Jim Lee, did you make it here tonight? Come on up, buddy. Come on up. Stand right there next to Mr. Coulter. Jim Lee's number 20, right? 19. Ah, it was so close. Number 19, you're heading to what after?
University of Dayton.
University of Dayton. So, congratulations. Do you know this kid? Jacob Coulter. Jacob, I know, is going to the Ohio State University next year. And he graduated number 14 of the class. Elizabeth Ellerdean. Where are you, Elizabeth? Come on down. Elizabeth is going to Miami University's Hamilton branch to study nursing. And she was number
9.
Number 9. Trevor Ellerdean. Trevor will be going to the Ohio State University And he graduated number 16 in the class, right? 17 of the class. Congratulations. I made that mistake because I think I moved my kid up one. Matthew Hardman. Matthew is also going to the Ohio State University, and he graduated number 18 in the class. Justine Head. Did Justine make it with us? Oh, Justine is going to Purdue University. She graduated number 8. Congratulations, Justine. Reagan Logsden. Reagan, here she comes. I know she graduated in the top 10. What number, Reagan? Number 3. Reagan is going to University of Cincinnati. Elizabeth Marcotte. Elizabeth did not make it. She was number 5. I knew she was in the top 10 as well. And she's going out of state somewhere. University of Dayton. Never mind. Congratulations. Carly Nagel. Does Carly make it? She also is not here. Carly was number 10. The Ohio State University. Kevin Tren. Kevin, come on up. What number, Kevin? Number 4. And Kevin is going to the Ohio State University. You guys can like chime into this. You would help. I mean, I got 3 of you up here, 4 of you now. Michael Uono. Michael, come on up. Michael was number 20, number 19, number 11, number 11. Michael, you're going where? Case Western University up in northern Ohio. I believe this is the most since we've kept track of our top 20 from Princeton. This is the most that have come from Sharonville, so that's exciting to hear. It just goes to show what we have in the water around here. Apparently it's working well. Just a few other highlights on these great folks. Justine Head was a full IB diploma candidate. Michael, who you just met, had a perfect ACT score. So super exciting. Looking forward, I mean, they've already accomplished many great things even at such a young age. We know that they are going to accomplish many more amazing and wonderful things. We also know that not only from Princeton do we have great people and great kids, but you know, some of our families send their kids to other private schools around the area. So we wanted to acknowledge some of them. So we learned that there is a young lady who goes to M&D, and she couldn't be with us this evening because it's their graduation. But her name is Mary Arango. And Mary, yeah, you can applaud for Mary. Mary is going to be going to West Point in the fall, but not only that, she received 3 military school appointments. So she chose that one over the 3, but that's quite an accomplishment, something really to be proud of as residents of Sharonville. So another big round of applause for these great young folks. Stick around. Go ahead, grab a seat real quick. We're going to do 2 more things, and then you guys can party with us, and we'll make sure parents and get great pictures of all of you here before you leave. So give us a few more minutes. All right, we got a couple of new employees that we want to swear in this evening with our police department. Jacob Carter, come on down. So Jacob is one of our clerk dispatchers with the police department. He graduated from Colerain High School. It's okay. In 2017, and then started with us here in Sharonville in April. He worked as a clerk dispatcher at Colerain Township Police and the City of Springdale Police. In his free time, he enjoys reading, listening to music, playing video games, and playing Magic the Gathering with his friends. He also hopes to go back to Tokyo sometime. That sounds fascinating. In the near future. And he currently resides with his family in Colerain Township. Jacob, you got anybody here that you
guys want to stand up? I have my mom, Glenna, my sister, Julia, and my dad, James.
Thank you, sir. Stay there. Let's bring Tristan Rothenbush down. Tristan. Gotta get my dating game card here. All right, Tristan graduated also from Colerain High School in, no, that you did not go to, no. I have to turn the paper over to find the right person. I was like, you guys went to school together. This is awesome. Tristan has always been highly interested in law enforcement and court procedures and how he can contribute to the community through the study and implementation of law enforcement. He graduated from Miami University in 2023 with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. His hobbies include attending the gym and working towards his private pilot's license. He grew up moving around to different states, experienced many different lifestyles, including living in Taiwan for a year. Now, this is real. There's some similarities there. Oh, it's amazing. His experiences regarding different communities and cultures had a significant effect on his interest in law and police work, and it allowed him to understand cultural differences better and the effects that those differences have on how law enforcement is utilized effectively in different situations. Congratulations, Tristan. Glad to have you. Do you have anyone here? You're all here for Tristan tonight to celebrate with him, all right? All right. Am I supposed to do an oath for these guys, right? No? No, they've already done it. They've already taken care of that. All right. Congratulations, gentlemen. We appreciate it. All right. With the permission of the President of Council, I think we're going to take a little recess here. Is that right? Sound good? So you can get pictures with your families. You can get pictures with our top 20 graduates. You can get pictures with Mr. Cattleman and Janie. You can eat cupcakes and cake. And then we'll get started back up again in about 5-10 minutes. So that's the exciting part of my report. The rest of my report for the evening, Mayor's Court for April of 2024, we had total revenue of $19,770 and some change. Year to date, we're at $86,150. So doing well on that front. If you would like full report, that will be part of the minutes and shared with the clerk of courts. A few other things that have happened, exciting things at Gorman Park. We had our big ribbon cutting this past week. It is a fantastic addition over to the west side of town. If you haven't gotten over there, please make sure you do. The dog park almost makes me think I want a dog. Not quite, just almost. But the splash pad is just so well being used. Super excited about what we were able to do over to the west side of town. I want to give kudos to Michael, all of his team in spearheading that project. I want to give some kudos to Anna. We've had Anna Ellerdine. We've done some great programming down on the loop this past couple of weeks. We had a children's story time, but the exciting thing was if you made it down Thursday night for Beats on Creek. Yeah, I had to remember how it rhymes. It was pretty cool to see all those folks line dancing in the middle of the square. So having a great time, frequenting our businesses and the like, which is why we do all that we do, right? So exciting things happening in Sharonville. Those are just a few of them that are made possible because of your leadership. So thank you to all of you. And that is what I have for the evening.
Great, thank you. Safety Service Director, Mr. Lucas.
Thank you. Before we hit the one piece of legislation, thought I would share why we're wearing green shirts this evening. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Green is symbolic of that. Just want to thank Rachel Combs and the Wellness Committee for making May offering a lot of training opportunities and other opportunities for our employees to talk about mental health this month and just the importance of that. A lot of times we don't talk about it enough, and in reality it's just as important as physical health, right? So a lot of people don't know I grew up with a brother that was schizophrenic, so my family was very much impacted by mental health. So thank you, Rachel, and for making that a priority this month. So, legislation-wise, there is one other piece of legislation. Two aspects are concerned with that. The first is a police staffing plan with law enforcement trust funds that Chief Nesbitt will talk about, and then Scott will talk about the second matter.
Thank you very much. I am on correct. We're asking to access some of our law enforcement special funds. And the reason we want to access the funds is since becoming chief, we became aware that the Ohio Association of Chiefs of Police Officers offers several different programs to help departments develop long-term and short-term planning and to find ways to be more efficient and more effective with the staffing and resources that they have. So what I'm asking for is funds from the law enforcement fund that will allow us to contract with the Ohio Association of Chiefs of Police so they can come in and do an external assessment of the police department, where and how we place our resources and personnel, and make recommendations on how we might better effectively deliver police services here in Fairfield. The plan will be structured around whatever guidance that we give, but they do some fundamental things in regards to command staff, leadership and supervision allocation, as well as staffing recommendations across several different dynamic facets that you make decisions on how many cops you need and where you need them and when you need them and what you do with it. So we'd like to see what they have to offer, recommendations they'd like to make. I've talked with some other chiefs who have used this service, as well as looked at one of our neighboring communities that did an outside assessment of theirs, and they made it part of the 5-year plan, which I think is very timely as we enter into some discussions on developing a 5-year plan for the police department and the city as well. So that would be the purpose of the money that we're asking for. Any questions?
Then rather than Scott, since the additional appropriation aspect concerns the law director, Casey would like to chime in.
Thank you. So there is a request for additional appropriations regarding legal services. That revolves around two pieces of litigation that the members of council should be aware of. The first having to do with our appeal of the liquor board decision up to the Franklin County Court of Common Pleas, which our outside counsel, our local counsel in Franklin County was successful, but the other side decided to then appeal. So we need to appropriate some funds to fund that part of that litigation. In addition, we have some outside council expenses related to the convention center expansion. So those are the two big pieces of litigation that revolve around that appropriation. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take them. Thank you.
And that's it this evening.
All right, thank you. For my report, June and July are our summer schedule months, so each month we'll have one meeting. June will be on June the 18th, and July we'll have our only council meeting on July 9th, so keep that in mind. Enjoy your vacations if you're going anywhere, and then August we'll pick back up, I believe, with our next 2-month schedule. That's it for my report. Clerk of Council, Ms. Buhite.
Thank you, no report.
All right, Auditor, Mr. Cunningham.
evening, everybody. We are a third of the way through the year, and the general fund has spent 33% of the budget. Go into more detail on that. The fire fund has spent 27.5%, convention center 15.8%. So those things are on track. We also had 3 transfers in the month of April. 175,000 to separation benefits, 2.3 million to capital improvements, and 50,000 to facility improvements. Those are all transfers we made in April. And with all those things put together, our working cash is right where it should be, maybe a little bit even more than where our goal is. So everything is working properly and efficiently. That's my report.
Thank you. Treasurer Kurt Irie.
Thank you. The treasurer's report is on file with the clerk of courts, or the clerk of council, sorry. Just want to commend the tax department and Linda Collins for all their hard work in April. I think it's important to note that we had a record month of income tax revenue of $5.2 million in April. And of course, they did a wonderful job in assisting many of our citizens again with filing their taxes, and they always perform excellent customer service. The general fund grew by $2.6 million alone in April, so kudos to all of them in the tax department, and great job in their efforts over there. Also, the TOT, you'll notice, was down 17%, the motel tax, and that had to do largely with some of the receipts not coming in until May. So that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Law Director, Mr. Lippert.
Thank you. It's only on for first reading, but I want to comment on ordinance 2024-40. That came out of a discussion about ways to include event centers in our nightclub regulation. So the idea is that notice will or already has gone out to event centers that may be included in this definition that we've developed, so that they can have the opportunity to comment and come before council. But I also encourage council members to take a look. We already received some comments from President Coulter, but if you can take a look at it in advance so that those potential modifications to what we've already developed can be discussed in law committee potentially, that would be ideal. That's all I have.
Thank you. Are there any residents desiring to be heard before council at this time? Yes, sir. If you can come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
So I could probably provide some comment. So Pat, thanks for joining us. Brenda was nice enough to send an email last week to Steve Boozum, our city engineer, public works director, with regard to the plat and what the county was able to provide to her. So we're looking into that and seeing what responsibility we have from the city or not. So it is clear that in 1928, 1930, there wasn't a built street on Fortney. That is obvious. Obviously, the building that your mom lives in, those buildings weren't even there in 1930. So we're still trying to figure out what was given to the city or not at that point in time. Because what happened with the other two streets, so you've got the other two across the street, which are city streets, are maintained city streets. They were built to specifications that allow the city to then dedicate that street, take over maintenance and dealing. Fortney was not, and never was. So it was never built in a way that the city would accept it and take it by the owners of that property. Now what we have is clearly a right-of-way that allows folks to transverse and go on it. That's without a doubt what was given to the city in 1930. Now the question is whether something more was. Because somebody can't just come in and build a street and say, all right, city, it's now your problem, deal with it. So we're trying to figure that out. So we're still researching, but that's where we're at as far as that piece goes. The other piece that could complicate it is when we look at that information, it appears that the property line, the line down Fortney, half is Sharonville, half is Evendale. So we're trying to figure out that piece too and whether or not where that comes into play with regard to anything that can go forward or not. This is not the first time that the city's been addressed with the issue. It's you know, the best we could find was going back to 2006, where another property owner of these same buildings, same concerns, and the answer all this time has been, it's not a city street. It's just wasn't built to city specifications, and until it is built to city specifications, the city's not inclined, and we haven't with any other street, taken over and dedicated those streets to require maintenance, because we're talking at this point, I think the last time we looked at bringing that street up to city specifications at the request of property owners, it was in the 6 figures price tag in order to get to it where it would be a point where we would take it on and dedicate it as a public street. It's probably more now because that was 10 years ago. And that was with participation of the property owners saying they would be willing to have their property assessed for that improvements in order to make it to the next step. Now, we haven't done that recently to see if all the property owners, I know Aaron's back there, I see him, you know, he's one of those, you own 2 of the buildings, right? So the question is whether or not that is something that we would consider, and then, you know, basically what that means is the city fronts the money, pays for that construction, and then taxes the property owners back. We did not get 100% participation the last time we had that conversation. If that were to change now, that brings about a conversation that can take place. So that's the problem with that front. But we're still trying to, you know, figure out what is the responsibility, how all these documents fit in with each other, but at least at first blush, that's what it appears. With regard to the website, I wish our website had more accurate information. We know for a fact there are multiple streets on there that are not yours, that are clearly private streets that we do not, like I think there's streets in Tennyson and streets in Copperfield that are not public streets, but for some reason are showing on that list as well. So we need to go back and, so we need to go back and look at those, because that doesn't bear what is reality as far as what our public streets and what that information is. So I don't have a good, I mean, I don't have a good answer for you right now. We are looking into it. We're looking at what it is. We're looking at possible options that we can offer to the owners of the properties there if this is a direction they want to head, if ultimately we decide that we do not have that responsibility. And I think that's ultimately probably where we're going to fall, because if we were to start doing that there, we would open ourselves to every private street in Sharonville coming in and saying, you know, you got to do this, because we have right-of-ways all over the place. Doesn't mean that there are, the property itself or that street wasn't built by the city, it wasn't maintained by the city, and it wasn't brought up to the city standards that would allow us to do that. So, but again, we're looking at it. We'll certainly get back to you and Brenda, and we'll add Aaron onto that conversation as well as we continue to look at that. But I get what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. But the question is, where is the private, where is the public? And as it stands right now, or at least has been the case for at least as long as I've been in this seat, well before I've been in this seat, the city's position is that the street is not, was not built publicly and was not built by the developer of that property to city standards that would allow us or have us dedicate a street as would be required in most instances.
Wouldn't that be part of the building process though?
Sometimes. But I mean, for example, I mean, you live on a private drive, right? I mean, so there was a decision made by the developers of your portion there that for whatever reason, either it wasn't feasible in order to have as many residents as they wanted up that street, decided to build without having a street go to the public and dedicate a street. They didn't want to go through all the extra things that are required, and extra expense, frankly, to build a dedicated street to make it happen. So for whatever reason that passed at that point in time, we would not, I will tell you right now, our planning commission would probably not approve a subdivision without the streets of it dedicated and met to city standards, because we'll have residents like yourself coming to us 15, 20 years later. In this instance, you know, those apartments were built in 1956, because I looked it up, I think. So, I mean, coming to us 60 years later, 60 plus years later, saying, you know, build us a street. And I get it. I understand where that's coming from. Unfortunately, and that was one of the things that we don't have any plans from the 1950s, at least with regard to these buildings. So, because that was one of the things I was hoping we'd find, and I asked our folks to try to find, to help give some historical perspective to it. But we're still, like I said, we're still trying to figure it out, still trying to figure out where we go from there. I know that's not the answer you want, but that's where we're at, and ultimately we'll have some recommendation from the administration as to council about how we'd like to proceed or how we think we can proceed. But that's the status of things right now.
Okay, well, since the previous. But anyway,
That was news to me, and when I heard that too, I'm like, oh great, I'm going to ask him, because it sounds like he probably moved in, because if he moved there 60 years ago, it was about right after it was built. So so that'll give us some historic perspective. So that's one of my next phone calls over the next couple of days, to kind of get some insight from him as to what things were like back then. But it clearly appears to be a conscious decision on the part of the developers of those properties, since you have the other two, McGrew and Willard, I think, right there, that are dedicated, that were built to the city specifications at the time. So there appears to be a conscious decision not to have built that out. But I don't know. But we're continuing to look at it.
I'm going to keep bothering him, so.
Please do.
But anyway, but thank you, Council, for.
Any other residents at the moment? All right. Seeing none. Council committees, community development, Mr. Tankersley is absent with notice.
I do have a report. If you'll recall, last council meeting, we had a resident over on the west side bring up the topics of chickens on the property and parking on the front lawn. Mr. Tankersley wanted me to let everyone know he's still working with Mr. Creech on scheduling a time and a date to meet to discuss that. And when that is finalized, he will let everyone on council know the date and time. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to continue with budget and finance and project oversight?
Thank you. Budget and Finance met tonight, and one of the topics was the 101 fund. So back in the day, it was called the Rainy Day Fund, and there's $400,000 in that. And we discussed what to do with the fund. And the concern was to be able to pull out of that fund, you would need, if you didn't have enough council members present, you would not be able to get enough for an emergency vote. So the discussion was, should we keep it in there or should we pull it out? And the recommendation was to pull it out and put it in the general fund, and we could do that with the stipulation that certain criteria would have to be met to use that in case of an emergency. An example was discussed of municipality, they were hit with a cyber attack, and that cost them about $350,000. So the whole idea was we've had this amount in this fund since 2009, and the goal is to pull it out, put it in the general fund with some stipulations on there, but to make it more readily accessible in case of emergency. That would be it. And I know it was brought up, certainly if there's something major like that, we would pull council together and make sure it was informed. However, if we didn't have enough council members at the time, we couldn't get access to the money. Okay. Second one was the indirect allocation plan update. So I know there's been discussion of several departments pull, for example, use the services of IT in a way to back charge each department to be equitable on the use of sharing those resources. That has been, it's been working well and as planned, and they don't foresee any changes at this time. Also discussed that there was a resolution back in 2006 that spells out the process on how to do income tax collection. So it's a surprise for Mr. Kean, and as it turns out, they are currently following that process, so great job, all right? And the last item was a 5-year capital plan. So everyone's gonna have some homework when they leave council tonight, and that is essentially by the end of July, we would like each council member to, one, with yourself and with your respective department heads of your committees that you're on, and come up with the target is your top 10 capital projects. Could be 9, it could be 12, could be 15, that's okay. And some of the direction would be is to think outside the box and really have no concern over, oh my, this might be too much or this might be too big. Once again, we're not saying we're going to do it. The whole idea is to dream big, right? And then the next step would be we'd send that to Mr. Lucas, they'd formulate it, organize it, send it back out to us, and then we would be able to review that, develop some questions, and then we would be able to meet. So it would be a more efficient process of what we've done in the past where we showed up and we brainstormed all that. We want the brainstorming to occur ahead of time, all right? So put your thinking caps on, and by the end of July, give your list to Mr. Lucas, and once again, please work with your respective department heads. All right, that's my report. Thank you.
Was there an email that was going to go out prior to that? I think that's what the discussion was, but I can't remember if it was coming from Mr. Lucas or...
Yes, the administration will put together an email with everything that David just said, and give you a little more direction about what we're looking for and how to work with your departments and committees to help in the formulation of that. So we'll have that out the next, probably next week.
And no report for project oversight. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Community Services, Mr. Lovett.
Good evening. I have no report today. We do have a meeting coming up on Wednesday the 5th, June 5th at 4 p.m. in Administrative Conference Room. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Honored Citizens, Ms. Knight.
Yes. Tonight, I'm honoring the city of Sharonville. This past week, we have provided a lot of great events, as mentioned by the mayor. First, we had the great dedication of Gower Park on Wednesday. The dog park and splash pad were a big hit. Thursday, there's dancing on the loop or beat on the creek, or anyway. I could not make it, had to work, but everyone else had a fantastic time. Saturday, the pool opened, and Monday we celebrated and gave thanks for honoring our veterans who gave their lives so we could be free. I'd like to personally thank Charlie Pugh for being our keynote speaker, And don't forget that Saturday, June 1st, is the summer kickoff, kicking off the summer with a bang. It starts at 6:30, fireworks at 10, and it's at the Princeton's campus and the ball field. Thank you.
Thank you. Law and Public Safety, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. We have, again, only one council meeting in June. That council meeting is on the 18th, so the Law Committee meeting will be on the 11th, June 11th, 4 p.m. Administrative Conference Room. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, rules and suspension motions. First and only reading for immediate effectivity for ordinance 2024-39. So is there a motion for or for rule suspension for ordinance 2024-39? So moved by Mr. Lovett, second by Mr. Schmidt. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed, no? Seeing none, that passes. Great. There's no unfinished business this evening, so we'll move on to our next order of new business. Ms. Buhite.
Okay. That's first and only reading of ordinance 2024-39, amending 2024 appropriations for various funds.
Thank you. Is there a motion for ordinance 2024-39? So moved by Mr. Cook, second by Ms. Sharpshire. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Sharpshire? Yes. Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-39 has been approved.
Thank you.
First reading of ordinance 2024-40, modifying chapter 731 to define and include event centers.
Thank you. Residents desiring to be heard before council, final chance this evening. All right, seeing none. Are there any other matters to be heard before council this evening? Ms. Sharpshire.
Okay. I just want to congratulate all those kids that came here today in the top 20 out of 11 Sharonvillians. 5 of them are Sharonville Sharks. Just saying. On another note, I want to publicly congratulate my daughter and son-in-law. They had a baby girl on Thursday, Genevieve Therese, so I'm officially a grandma.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Ms. Knight?
Yes, I would like to say happy birthday to Paul Schmidt. He had a birthday on Sunday. Happy birthday, Paul.
Thank you.
Happy. How's it feel to be able to drink legal now, Paul?
Anyone else? All right, seeing none, and seeing that Mr. Tankersley is not here, and he's always the one to first the adjournment, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Ms. Sharpshire, I'll take that for the first. Mr. Cook, thank you for the second. We are adjourned.